Okay, so this is sort of an exploration of the book that I made for Dash. It's called At Home with Racket because his lovey's name is Racket. So this is sort of inscription, Racket's theme song. This is all embroidery, and the edges are all stuffed and not necessarily stiff, but solid. This is the first page. It's got a little door with Racket in it, and some windows that open onto things that will appear in other pages. So up here is a squirrel, which this was my first attempt at a squirrel. So you can see the squirrel body and then the massive squirrel tail where it just got completely carried away. And then this is a little bird with bird's nest that I did after I had a little bit more experience with embroidery. These were fun. These just are little tiny embroidery roses that are really simple. And then this was sort of my second attempt at color shading with sort of thread painting, I guess you'd call it. This is a plant that grows around the outside of our door. Wisteria, yes. So it was fun figuring out how to make wisteria that looked wisteria-esque. All right, all of these things sort of call back to things that will appear in other pages. So there's a beehive in a later page. There's the things in the windows. There's a page that's about the pond in the back. Anyway, okay. Oh, and this opens a little bit. The mailbox opens a little bit so you can stick stuff in it. Boop. All right, next page is the entryway. So this door doesn't open. It's just sort of a door to link it to the outside. And then we've got taking off your shoes and practicing different kinds of shoe things. So it's a tie your own shoes, and this is Velcro. And then this is sort of a picture of Racket and his friends. So that's Arthur Stitch and Mr. Edward Bear. And I'm particularly proud of this rug because I have basically made that stitch up myself. And then, of course, there's a coat rack, which leads us to the next page, which is the coat that Racket wears. So you come inside and you take off your coat. And there's a little mouse underneath Racket's pocket square. You take off the jacket, and there's a shirt with buttons and a little belt. I made this shirt out of one of Jeremy's old shirts because it was easy. Anyway, underneath it is raccoon fur. It's not, I mean, it's fake fur, obviously, but yeah. So it's all sort of practice with fine motor skills and zippers and buttons and all that stuff on one page. And the next page is the kitchen, which has a clock. Obviously, Dash can't tell time yet, but the hands move. It's a good way to look at numbers. And then we've got a representation of the kitchen, which has a refrigerator and freezer with little embroidered things in it. There's ice cream and celery, and I really like that little thing of cauliflower right there. And then in the cupboards, there's things you'd find in cupboards. So pots and pans. Actually, these don't hold open as well. And lids and various bits of crockery. And then underneath the sink, which has running water-ish, there's under the sink stuff. So there's a trash can and there's cleaning up stuff. And then in the oven, there's a turkey, and there's a stew pot on the stove. And then there's a fruit basket on the counter, which my stepmother Carolyn made. So then over here is The cheese insert, which is basically a threading game. So the idea is that there's this little mouse, and it goes in through the holes of the cheese, and it's all sort of hand-eye coordination and figuring out where things go. This one I actually didn't design myself. This one I found on the internet. So it's actually a super fun little easy thing. And then the cheese goes home to the pocket. This page is the family hall stairwell kind of thing. So it's got Dash at the bottom, surrounded by some of his favorite things. Then Dad and Mom here, and aunts and uncles, and grandparents up here. And under each of these is a little baby photo of all these adults. So this one was a really complicated page to make. It took several months. I think I was working on it over Christmas last year. So there's lots of little embroideries, lots of fitting pieces together. It was really difficult, but I think it turned out really well. Getting like the backing of these to work out really well was fun. It didn't always work. Sometimes I made it backwards, but so it goes. Over here is it's a button color matching game. So it's sort of experience with taking things off and on buttons, but it's also like the orange flower goes with the orange button kind of thing. So the idea was that you go through the window up here with this thing of flowers, and then ta-da, same bouquet, same window. So it's hard to tell, but I had a really fun time working on the background of this, lots of piecing together pieces of sky that I felt worked well. And then we've got a bee here, which links us to the next page, which is the beehive, which is a little maze. So the idea is that there's these little guys who are sort of underneath this mesh. They're held in place with this mesh. You have to push them through to get places. But the point is to get the bee to the queen. Ta-da! So I made these bees out of Shrinky Dinks. And yeah, they're pretty cool. I had fun making those. Shrinky Dinks. It's a fun process. Alright, next page we go from outside to inside again. And this is an abacus of Racket in the shower. And I don't know if you've been following along with the sky, but I've been trying to set it up so that you can see the sky darkening to indicate an oncoming storm. So out here the storm is coming full on. Anyway, I want to start with 0 because that seemed like a sensible thing to do. And just sort of carry on like that. And then these beads flop around. The storm in the window brings us to the storm in the outside. So this is the clouds, a cloudy day over the pond outside, and there's little fish beads here. And then I made these ducks, this duck family that scooches along. And then further out to the pond, there's a boat that wobbles around. And then after a while, the rain really starts coming down. And here comes the rain. Yeah. There we go. Oh, the rain. Then we go back inside, and the storm has abated a bit. And we return to a shape matching game. So you can see the outlines of these tethered toys that fit. So these are mostly toys that Dash has already. So he's got this red pull helicopter. He's got this sort of pyramid caterpillar thing that unfolds. He's got this pull toy that's a duck. And he's been obsessed with balloons forever. So That seemed like sort of a natural. A lot of these toys are toys that he has. Anyway, so the window where you can see the storm abating has this spider web in it, and that brings us to the next page, which is the spider web, which it's sort of hard to see underneath the massive rings and string. But as the sun is going down, you can see there's sort of like a little bead threading game where you can move beads through all these different rings. And it's challenging because the string is a little bit longer than perhaps it ought to be, but I didn't want it to be too tight, so it is too loose instead. We are more or less officially not saying that these are desiccated corpses. They are, as far as I know, raindrops and or dewdrops, not corpses. Okay, next page is sort of the goodnight page, and that's from the back of the house, and it's sort of the reflection of the night sky in the pond, and Racket saying goodbye. So the moon and ideally the stars are supposed to be glow in the dark. They don't really glow, but we like to pretend. And then in the end, there's just a sort of good night to Dash, a little embroidered Racket, and then that's the final cover. So that's been the explainer. Hope that made sense.